Singapore, Cultural Audit for an International Business Opportunity. A country overview. Singapore is an island nation located in Southeast Asia between Malaysia and Indonesia. It's one of the few remaining city-states in the world. Being the smallest country in Southeast Asia, it's approximately 660 kilometers squared with a population of over 5 million.
Singapore is located near the equator and has a tropical climate. Temperatures are relatively uniform, with high humidity and abundance of rainfall all year round. Although temperatures do not show much difference month to month, they do show large variations throughout the day. In the average rainfall chart, we can see that the higher amount of rainfall is over the northern and southern parts of the island. In the humidity chart, you can see that Singapore's humidity does not vary much month to month. Rather, you see a pattern throughout the day with higher humidity in the morning before sunrise and falling humidity in the mid-afternoons.
Singapore is a city-state, but for administrative purposes, the government of Singapore has adopted 5 regions, which are governed by councils and headed by mayors. These regions are the Central Region, East Region, North Region, Northeast Region, and West Region. Singapore is very multicultural. Roughly 1 million people out of its population are foreigners with work and employment passes. There are a vast amount of different languages. Out of these languages, 4 are considered the official languages. Mandarin takes up 36.3%, English 29.8%, Malay is 11.9%, and Tamil is 3.2%. There's also a vast collection of faiths in Singapore. Major religions include Christian, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism.
Economy and currency. Singapore has a developed and successful free market economy with a corruption-free environment, stable prices, and a very low employment rate. The economy is very trade-driven and is heavily supported by foreign workers. In 2013, the government forecasted by 2030, immigrants will make up more than 50% of their population. The economy also depends heavily on exports, especially consumer electronics and information technology products. 1 Singapore dollar is equivalent to 93 cents Canadian or 71 cents American. Average monthly wages. Wages in Singapore averaged $3,183 a month from 1989 until 2016. The highest monthly wages reached was $5,483 a month in the first quarter of 2016, and the lowest monthly earnings was $1,302 a month in 1989. Singapore's major industries. Major industries in Singapore include the chemical, oil, and gas industry. Singapore is the world's top 3 export refining centers and the world's 3rd largest oil trading hub. It's home to more than 95 leading oil, petrochemical, and specialty chemical companies, with the oil industry accounting for 5% of Singapore's GDP. Tourism. Tourism is the biggest service section and attracts millions of tourists each year. Many steps are continuously being taken to make Singapore a must-visit destination. Logistics. Singapore was ranked top logistics hub of the world by the World Bank in 2007. Its ports are linked to over 130 countries. Banking and finance. Singapore has become the hub of banking in Southeast Asia, and it holds many international banks as well as other financial institutions.
Singapore became the 104th member of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank on August 3, 1966. Singapore is a member of all 5 World Bank Group institutions. Over the period of 1963 to 75, Singapore received 14 loans from the World Bank. The WBG Singapore office opened on September 1, 1999. Singapore has been a WTO member since January 1, 1995. government of Singapore. The Singapore Parliament is modeled after the Westminster system of parliamentary democracy. Members of Parliament are voted in at regular general elections. President of Singapore is Tony Tan Keng Yam. And the Prime Minister is Lee Hsien Loong. Transparency of political institutions. On the Corruption Perception Index of 2016, Singapore ranked 7 out of 176 and scored 84 out of 100, 100 being the most clean and 0 being very corrupt. The Corruption Practices Investigation Bureau quotes, "Singapore continues to be one of the least corrupt countries in the world, and the Republic's public sector remains as one of the cleanest."
A cultural overview. Communication style in Singapore. Verbal communication. Conversations are mostly business-focused with a few exceptions, including food, weather, and the state of the world's economy. Compliments are rarely given, unless partners know each other very well. Not much emotion is used when discussing business. Typically, it's focused on the topic. Rather than using the word no, they will say, "I will try." English is widely understood and is used in everyday business. Nonverbal communication. They often trust nonverbal messages more than spoken words. Pausing before responding to a question shows that they have given the question thought before answering.
Dining etiquette. In food courts, there's an unofficial seating rule of vacant seats. Leaving a pack of tissues next to an empty seat is how people save their seat while getting food. Playing with chopsticks or complaining about the food being served is seen as disrespectful and embarrassing for the accompanied people. When dining with Indian or Malay guests, a fork is used to separate the food and a spoon is used to put the food in the mouth. It's proper etiquette to wait until elders have seated to eat. Business etiquette. There's a strong emphasis on equality between sexes, and punctuality is imperative to show respect. Meeting rules. Greeting will follow strict protocol based on ethnic origin and race. Men and women may shake hands, but only if the woman extends her hand first. Business cards must be treated with respect, given and received with both hands. Attire. Business casual is common. A white dress shirt, slacks, and tie is acceptable with no jacket required.
Social etiquette in Singapore. Although temperatures can be extremely high, wearing very little clothing is viewed as ridiculous looking. Importing and selling chewing gum in Singapore is banned and carries fines up to $100,000. Spitting on the public streets in mainland China is common, but Singaporeans are opposed to the idea and can issue $500 fines. Slander or making offensive comments about cultural foods is considered very disrespectful. Refrain from showing any signs of emotions, stay disciplined and in control at all times.
Social structure in Singapore. People from Singapore tend to say they are an egalitarian society, yet they have strong hierarchical relationships. Singapore is a collective society, meaning that we is most important. As you can see in the individualism column, Singapore scored a low score of 20. This is because they're a collectivistic society, meaning they belong to groups. These groups take care of each other in exchange for loyalty to the group.
Recommendations for doing business in Singapore. Singapore is one of the most heavily Western influenced of all major Asian economies, making it easy for Western businesses to operate there. Singapore is a mix of ethnic Chinese, Malays, and Indians. Different approaches may be required when dealing with each of them. Avoid displaying open disagreement with decisions that are made. In Singapore, age automatically gives a person respect. Ensure that people of similar status deal with senior people. Thank you for listening to our presentation.